The day my ex-husband showed up at my office begging for help, I almost didn't recognize him. 7 years had passed since he'd looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't good enough for his new life. 7 years since he'd walked out of our tiny apartment in Chicago without looking back. But there he was, standing in the lobby of my architecture firm, the same man who once said I was just a waitress asking if I remembered him. Of course I remembered him. You don't forget the person you sacrificed everything for. You don't forget the person who threw it all back in your face. Let me take you back. Way back to when I was 38 years old, and my name was still Elena Rodriguez Turner. Back when I thought love meant putting someone else's dreams ahead of your own. I met Marcus at a community college class. He was taking paralegal courses at night while working as a clerk during the day. I was wrapping up my associate degree in architectural drafting, dreaming of one day designing buildings that would change city skylines. We were both hungry for more, both reaching for something bigger than ourselves. He told me he wanted to become a lawyer. A real lawyer, not just someone pushing papers, but someone who could stand in a courtroom and fight for justice. His eyes lit up when he talked about it, and I fell in love with that light. "It'll take 7 years," he said one night over cheap takeout in my studio apartment. 4 years for my bachelor's degree, then 3 years of law school. "But Elena, if I could do this, if I could become an attorney, we could have everything. A real house, vacations, we could start a family." I was already sketching our future in my mind. I just received an email about a junior position at Rivera and Associates, a prestigious architecture firm in downtown Chicago. The interview was scheduled for the following Tuesday. It was everything I'd been working toward. "I'll help you," I heard myself say. "We'll do it together." That Tuesday, I canceled the interview. I told them I was no longer available. Instead, I picked up a shift at Morton's Steakhouse, waiting tables in the evenings. During the day, I found work as a bookkeeper for a small property management company. The pay wasn't much, but it was steady. Marcus enrolled at DePaul University that fall. I'll never forget watching him walk across campus that first day, backpack slung over his shoulder, looking like he belonged there. I was so proud of him, so sure we were building something that would last. The first year wasn't too bad. We moved into a cheaper apartment in Albany Park to save money. I added a weekend job walking dogs for busy professionals in Lincoln Park. Marcus studied constantly, and I worked constantly, but we still found time for each other. Friday nights, we'd split a bottle of cheap wine and dream about the future. "When I make partner at a firm," he'd say, "we're getting you back into architecture. You're going to design the most beautiful buildings this city has ever seen." I believed him. By his second year at DePaul, the bills were piling up. Tuition kept increasing. Textbooks alone cost hundreds of dollars each semester. I took on a fourth income stream, doing freelance bookkeeping from our apartment until 2 or 3 in the morning. I'd wake up at 6 to walk the dogs, rush to my day job, then head to the restaurant for the dinner shift. I usually got home around midnight. I stopped buying new clothes. I wore my waitress uniform so much that the black pants started getting thin at the knees. My one pair of nice jeans from before we got married developed holes that I covered with patches. I didn't care. This was temporary. This was an investment in our future. Marcus graduated from DePaul with honors. I was there in the audience, exhausted but beaming, as he walked across that stage. That night, he held me and said, "3 more years, baby. Just 3 more years and I promise, it'll all be worth it." Law school was harder. Northwestern University School of Law, one of the top programs in the country. The tuition made my stomach drop when I saw the numbers. $45,000 a year. For 3 years. I sat down with a financial advisor at my bookkeeping job, a kind woman named Patricia, who'd seen me fall asleep at my desk more than once. "Elena," she said gently, "this is over $100,000 in tuition alone, plus living expenses. Are you sure about this?" I was sure. I had to be sure. We'd already come so far. I took out private loans in my name. Marcus's credit wasn't good enough, and his parents had nothing to offer. My parents had passed away years before, leaving me a small inheritance of about $15,000. It was supposed to be for a down payment on a house someday. I used it to pay for his first semester. Those 3 years of law school broke something in me that I didn't even know could break. I was working 4 jobs and still struggling to make the monthly payments. I developed chronic migraines from the stress and lack of sleep. I stopped seeing friends because I simply didn't have time. I missed my cousin's wedding because I had a double shift that weekend and couldn't afford to lose the money. Marcus was consumed by his studies. I understood law school was brutal. He had to maintain his grades, had to network, had to secure a summer internship at a good firm. I supported him through all of it. When he landed a spot at Kellerman and Rhodes for his 2 liters summer, I was ecstatic. This was it. This was the moment everything would start to turn around. He worked at Kellerman and Rhodes that summer and came back changed. He started talking differently, dressing differently. He bought expensive suits on credit cards, saying he needed to look the part. He told me about the other associates, their wives and girlfriends who had degrees from elite schools, who spoke multiple languages, who could hold conversations about wine regions and art galleries. "You should read more," he suggested one night. "The kinds of things they talk about at the firm, politics, international affairs. It would help you grow." I was reading legal textbooks at 2 in the morning to understand his case briefs so I could quiz him. I didn't have time to read Foreign Affairs magazine. His 3rd year, he made law review. It was a huge honor, and I was so proud. But he started coming home later and later. Networking events, he said, study groups, firm receptions. The spring of his final year, he received an offer from Winston & Strathmore, one of the most prestigious corporate law firms in Chicago. Starting salary, $190,000 a year. I cried when he told me. 7 years. 7 years of sacrifice, and we'd finally made it. His graduation ceremony was on a Saturday in May. I took the day off from all my jobs, the first full day off I'd had in months. I wore the only dress I owned that didn't have stains or worn patches, a navy blue shift I'd bought at Goodwill for $12. I'd lost weight over the years from the stress and the irregular eating. The dress hung on me. I sat in the audience at Northwestern's law school ceremony, watching Marcus walk across the stage in his cap and gown. The dean called his name, Marcus James Turner, Juris Doctor, with honors. I clapped until my hands hurt. That night, he took me to Gibson's Steakhouse. It was the fanciest restaurant we'd ever been to together. He ordered a bottle of wine that cost more than I made in a week at Morton's. "This is a celebration," he said. "I start at Winston & Strathmore in 8 weeks." I raised my glass. "We did it," I said. "We actually did it." He looked at me for a long moment, and something in his expression made my stomach tighten. "Elena," he said slowly, "we need to talk about our future." The way he said "our" made it clear he didn't mean us together. "I've been offered an incredible opportunity," he continued, "but the expectations at Winston & Strathmore are different. The partners' wives, the associates' wives, they're all accomplished women. Women with advanced degrees, women who can host dinner parties with federal judges and state senators, women who understand how to navigate these social circles." I set my wine glass down. My hand was shaking. "You're a waitress, Elena," he said, and the words landed like a slap. "You smell like coffee and bacon grease when you come home. You've got dog hair on your coat half the time. I need someone who can stand beside me at these events and not make me look like I came from nowhere." "You did come from nowhere," I whispered. "We both did. But I'm going somewhere now," he said, "and I'm sorry, but you can't come with me. You don't fit into this world. My colleagues have wives who went to Yale and summer in the Hamptons. You still shop at Goodwill." I couldn't breathe. The restaurant suddenly felt too small, too bright, too loud. "I want a divorce," Marcus said. "I'll have my attorney draw up the papers. You'll get something, of course. $20,000. That's fair for 7 years. $20,000. I'd spent over $120,000 on his education. I'd sacrificed my career, my health, my dreams. And he was offering me $20,000 like I was a contractor who'd completed a job. "I gave up everything for you," I managed to say. "I canceled the interview at Rivera and Associates. I took out loans in my name. I worked 4 jobs. And I'm grateful." He cut me off. "I really am. But gratitude doesn't change the fact that we're not compatible anymore. I've outgrown this relationship. I need a partner who matches my ambition, my status. You understand." I understood. I understood that the man I'd loved, The man I'd sacrificed everything for had become someone who measured people's worth by their education and their wardrobe. I left the restaurant without finishing my meal. I should have asked for a box to take it home. It was probably $70 worth of steak, but I couldn't think straight. I walked for hours through downtown Chicago, past buildings I'd once dreamed of designing, past restaurants where I'd worked double shifts, past the life I'd given up. The divorce took 3 months. Marcus had hired a shark of an attorney from his firm. I couldn't afford a lawyer of my own, so I represented myself. The court awarded me $35,000 in the settlement. It wasn't enough to cover half of what I'd spent on his education, but the judge said I couldn't prove all the expenses. I had receipts for the tuition payments, but how could I quantify the cost of 4 jobs, of missed opportunities, of 7 years of my life? Marcus married his new girlfriend 3 months after our divorce was finalized. Her name was Vanessa Montgomery. She had a degree from Georgetown and worked in public relations. She wore pearls and knew how to pronounce hors d'oeuvres. She was everything I wasn't. I moved into a studio apartment in Rogers Park, the cheapest place I could find. I quit the restaurant job and the dog walking. I kept the bookkeeping work because it paid the bills. And then, for the first time in 7 years, I had time. Time to think. Time to breathe. Time to remember who I was before I became Marcus's wife. I was 45 years old. I'd given up my dream of becoming an architect. But maybe it wasn't too late. I enrolled in a night program at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, taking classes in architectural design and urban planning. I used the settlement money carefully, making it stretch. During the day, I worked. At night, I studied, but this time, I was studying for myself. My professor, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, pulled me aside after class one evening. "Your designs are different from the other students," she said. "You're not just thinking about aesthetics. You're thinking about people, real people. Who lives in these buildings? How do they use the space?" "I spent 7 years working 4 jobs just to survive," I told her. "I know what it's like to come home exhausted and just need a space that works for you. Most architecture is designed for people who can afford luxury, but what about everyone else?" Dr. Chen smiled. "Have you ever heard of the Chicago Affordable Housing Initiative?" I hadn't. They're offering grants to designers who can create innovative, low-cost housing solutions for single mothers and working families. $25,000 seed grants for pilot projects. I applied the next day. 3 months later, I received an email. My proposal had been selected. I was one of 5 recipients statewide. I used the grant money to convert a rundown 3-flat building in Humboldt Park into 6 affordable apartments designed specifically for single mothers. Each unit had a small home office space, a shared laundry facility on each floor, and a community room in the basement for childcare co-ops. The rent was set at 30% below market rate. The project took me 8 months to complete. I worked with contractors during the day and refined designs at night. When it was finished, all 6 units were filled within a week. The local news did a story about it. A small story, barely 3 minutes, but it mentioned my name. Elena Rodriguez, architect and advocate. That segment changed everything. A nonprofit called New Foundations saw the piece and reached out. They wanted to expand the model across Chicago. They had funding from the city and from private donors. They needed someone to lead the design and implementation. I was terrified. I'd never run anything bigger than a small pilot project. But Dr. Chen told me something I'll never forget. "You've already done the hardest part. You survived. Everything else is just putting one foot in front of the other." I accepted the position as Director of Design for New Foundations. Over the next 3 years, we converted 18 buildings across Chicago into affordable housing. We created spaces for over 200 families, mostly single mothers, immigrants, and working-class families who'd been priced out of their neighborhoods. The work was hard, but it was mine. I was designing buildings that actually mattered to people who needed them. The Chicago Tribune ran a feature on our work. Forbes mentioned us in an article about innovative housing solutions. I was invited to speak at a conference on urban planning at Northwestern, the same university where Marcus had graduated from law school. My firm grew. I hired a team of young architects, many of them women and people of color who'd faced their own barriers in the industry. We became known for our human-centered approach to affordable housing design. By my third year, my company was valued at $8 million. I was 51 years old. I was successful. And I was happy. That's when Marcus showed up. It was a Tuesday afternoon. My assistant buzzed my office. "There's a Marcus Turner here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's urgent." I hadn't heard that name in 6 years. "Send him in," I said. He looked smaller than I remembered. His suit was nice, probably expensive, but it hung on him wrong, like he'd lost weight. His hair was graying at the temples. He had the look of someone who hadn't slept well in months. "Elena," he said. "Thank you for seeing me." I didn't stand up from my desk. "What do you want, Marcus?" "I need help," he said. "I made some mistakes." "Serious mistakes?" I waited. "There's an investigation," he said, the words tumbling out fast. "The SEC is looking into some of my cases at Winston and Strathmore. Some deals I worked on. They're saying I falsified documents, that I helped clients hide assets in offshore accounts. It's not true, not all of it, but my license has been suspended. I've been fired. Vanessa left me. She filed for divorce last month. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sympathy, just a hollow kind of distance. I need a good attorney," he continued, "but I can't afford one, not the kind I need. All my savings went into the defense for the first round of accusations, and that lawyer dropped me when I couldn't pay anymore. I'm broke, Elena. Completely broke. And you came here because? I heard you were successful now," he said. "I saw the Tribune article. Your company is worth millions. I thought maybe you could help me. A loan, something." I leaned back in my chair. "Let me make sure I understand. 7 years ago, you told me I was just a waitress who smelled like coffee and dog hair. You said I didn't fit into your world. You divorced me because I wasn't good enough for your new life. And now you want me to give you money?" "I made a mistake," he said quickly. "I was young and stupid and arrogant. I didn't appreciate what you did for me. I see that now. Elena, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. But I need help. I could go to prison." I stood up and walked to the window. My office overlooked West Madison Street. I could see one of our converted buildings from here, a former warehouse that now housed 42 families. "Do you know what I did after you left?" I asked without turning around. "I worked at a bookkeeping firm during the day. At night, I went back to school. I used every penny of that $35,000 settlement to build something real, something that helps people who actually need it." "I know," he said, "and that's amazing. You're amazing. You always were. I was just too stupid to see it." I turned to face him. "You're right about one thing. We're not on the same level. We never were. I build homes for people who've been abandoned by the system, people who work 3 jobs just to keep a roof over their kids' heads, people who've been told they don't matter because they're not rich or educated or connected enough. I understand." "You don't," I cut him off. "You measured my worth by my job title and my wardrobe. You threw away 7 years of loyalty because I embarrassed you at dinner parties, and now you want me to bail you out. Please," he said, and I heard the desperation in his voice. "I have no one else." I walked back to my desk and sat down. "There's a legal aid clinic 2 blocks from here. They help people who can't afford attorneys. The address is 1520 West Madison. They might be able to help you." "Legal aid?" he said. "Elena, I need a real lawyer, someone who can fight the SEC. Those legal aid attorneys are just what, Marcus? Just people who help the poor? People who aren't good enough for you?" He went quiet. "Get out of my office," I said. "And don't come back." He stood there for another moment, looking like he wanted to say something else. Then he turned and left. I sat at my desk for a long time after he was gone. I thought about the girl I'd been at 38, so eager to sacrifice everything for someone else's dream. I thought about the woman I'd become at 51, building something that mattered with my own 2 hands. My assistant buzzed again. "Your 4 o'clock is here. The city council member wants to discuss the South Side expansion project." I took a breath, straightened my shoulders, and stood up. I had work to do, real work, important work. Marcus had been right about one thing. All those years ago, we weren't on the same level. I was so far above him now that he couldn't even see me anymore. I heard later, through mutual acquaintances, that Marcus ended up taking a plea deal. He lost his law license permanently and served 18 months in a minimum security facility. When he got out, he found work as a paralegal at a small firm in the suburbs. The same job he'd had when I first met him. Vanessa married a hedge fund manager. They have a house in Winnetka. I don't keep track of them anymore. I don't need to. Last month, I broke ground on our biggest project yet, a 12-building complex on the west side that will provide housing for 300 families. The mayor was there, so was Dr. Chen, who's become a dear friend. So were some of the first families who moved into our very first building in Humboldt Park. A reporter from the Tribune asked me what I was most proud of. I thought about it for a moment. I'm proud that I didn't let someone else's rejection define me, I said. I'm proud that I turned pain into purpose. And I'm proud that I built something that will outlast me, something that helps people who just need someone to believe they're worth investing in. The reporter smiled. That's beautiful. I looked out at the construction site, at the foundation being laid for 300 homes. We all deserve a strong foundation, I said. Sometimes you have to build it yourself. Hey everyone! How are you all doing? I know this was a heavy story to share, but I wanted you to hear it because I think there's something